Cheyenne was platted in 1867 when Grenville Dodge arrived here ahead of the Union Pacific Railroad. The original city limits were just 1 square mile centered on the soon-to-be Union Pacific Depot and headquarters. Tents soon populated the small area as many people arrived here in anticipation of the city that would bloom. So many people settled in Cheyenne so quickly, the nickname Magic City was assigned to Cheyenne. It was as if the city just appeared overnight. As the railroad came through and laid tracks, more permanent buildings were constructed for both commercial and residential settlement. The Calvary Base, named Fort D.A. Russell, was established just to the west of the newly located city. The location was selected by General C.C. Augur, who was a Union commander during the Civil War. Fort D.A. Russell's name was changed in 1930 to Fort Warren, and later after World War II to the current name, F.E. Warren Air Force Base, both named after Senator Francis E. Warren. This military base is the oldest continuously active military installation within the Air Force. Due to the presence of the railroad in Cheyenne, the city was a central shipping point for cattle and sheep from the entire western United States. From Cheyenne, cattle and sheep were shipped to the entire nation to supply markets. This enticed wealthy cattle barons to settle in Cheyenne, and by 1885, Cheyenne was considered the richest city per capita in the world. Cheyenne was a new city full of endless possibilities. Many young men and women came to Cheyenne to change their lives and start anew. Francis E. Warren was one such young man who came to Cheyenne and through hard work and dedication would become one of the most famous politicians from the state. The architectural variation in this city ranges from the 1870s through the 1960s, with Richardsonian Romanesque, a variety of Victorian styles and details, to Art Deco and modern architecture. Some of the famous high-style architectural buildings are the historic Atlas Theater, built in 1887, the Nagel Warren Mansion, built in 1888, the Tivoli Building, built in 1892. Lastly, the historic Governor's Mansion, built in 1904 as the first executive residence for the state of Wyoming. The Atlas Theater was built in 1887 as a tea and candy shop on the main floor with offices above. It became an entertainment center in 1908. During the early 1970s, the local theater company first rented and then purchased the building and have been making improvements over the last 40 years to both the interior space and the exterior facade. The Nagel Warren Mansion was built by Erasmus Nagel in 1888 during the short period of time when Cheyenne was the richest city in the country per capita. This stunning house was built utilizing the rejected stones from the state capitol building and was covered in stucco in 1960 to help preserve the house. It is a bed and breakfast today. The Tivoli Building was built in 1888 as an eating and drinking establishment and also served as the meeting place for the committee who planned the first Cheyenne Frontier Days in 1897. In 1904, construction started on the historic Governor's Mansion. Charles Murdoch was the architect for this stately residence, which cost the taxpayers of Wyoming approximately $33,000 to purchase the site, build the house, and completely furnish and landscape. It was converted into a state park and opened to visitors in 1977. A restoration took place in 2004 to convert the house back to several more original appearances. A common theme among preservationists and historians is to know the future, one must understand the past. Historic preservation is important because the historic buildings tell of our history in a physical way. We can read about the past and look at photos, but being able to stand in front of a building, possibly in the same way people did 100 years ago, means so much more than a photograph. It is tangible. We can touch it and feel the sense of place created by both external and internal spaces of one building or the whole downtown area.